I always want to visit a local cafe. I don't want to go to an overpriced place like Starbucks to get a cup of coffee or drink. I always wanted to go to a local cafe, despite that... Nah, hang on. Mojave Fami, this beautiful man, sadly passed away in March 2022. I don't know if I should start off with mentioning the creator passing away, but look, I want to create a retrospect, or more appropriately, a love letter, to everyone, including the creator, Mohamed Famin, who not only worked on one of my favorite games, but also one of my favorite game series of all time, Coffee Talk. Set in modern-day Seattle, inhabited by fantasy races such as werewolf, succubus, and humans. You play as a barista who I'm presuming is supposed to be a human or whatever fantasy character you want to imagine yourself as. Be a Fanta for all I care, you do you. While working as a barista, you'll chat and listen to the customers' stories while serving them drinks of their choice. These can range from simple drinks like espressos to tailor-made drinks for certain characters, like the Milky Way. However, if you serve them the wrong drink, it could have dire consequences, such as locking them out of their good ending. Because of this, once I got the sequel, I just went to free play mode and started unlocking all their drinks beforehand. Coffee Talk released on January 29, 2020. How I got introduced to the game was that one day I was exploring around the PlayStation store in the demo section, and I came across a game called Coffee Talk, which was a visual novel game. I didn't know much about visual novel game besides Doki Doki Literature Club and Go Go Nippon My First Trip in Japan. I decided to give the game a shot because not many games were going to be released during this time. Fast forward to now, and I have at least 3 copies of the first game. How we're gonna do this retrospect, or how I like to call it a love letter, is that we'll break it down from individual and then to pairings. There are gonna be some characters where their story interconnect with each other, so I just thought that it would be best that we just put them together. And plus, even in the ending, they even pair the 2 characters, showing that their stories are interconnected. Look, this is gonna be a very long video, so I suggest that you sit down, relax, and grab something to eat or drink. With that out of the way, let's break it down. The game opened up with a narrator explaining the world of Coffee Talk. We see how everyone coexists with each other. Orcs dropping their axes and picking up computers to improve their lives. Dwarves starting an automotive empire. And humans being humans. Once we're situated with the world, we jump right into the cafe called Coffee Talk, which the player runs, which is only open at night. Usually at or past midnight, going till almost the break of dawn presumably. The cafe is warm and welcoming compared to the outside of Seattle cold weather with rain. Besides having the basic button for a visual novel game such as auto, fast forward, the logs which look like phone text messages, and the menu button, but there is one more button that this game adds, the phone. The phone has 4 apps. Tomodachi is a social media app featuring character bios. Brewpad, which houses all the recipe drinks. Don't worry if you haven't unlocked it yet, you'll usually unlock it as you go. It basically works as once you unlock and serve the drink, it will be added to your app. The Evening Whisper, which are short stories mostly made by one of the regulars, Freya. More on her later. And lastly is Shufai, which is the music player. Do you get the reference? The music in this game is quite calm and relaxing, perfectly encapsulate the vibe of a cafe, as well as just study music. Like, the developers even know this to the point where their official YouTube channel provide a 1-hour version of their music to listen to. Speaking of music, I should probably play some of the songs. Here are a few of my favorites. Switching to the gameplay, it's quite simple. Customer asks for a drink, which Fanta make and provide. The mechanics of the game are similar to a lot of games and minigames. My friend who was helping me with the script editing mentioned how the gameplay reminded him of Honkai Star Rail Bard minigame. Well, I told him that it reminded me of a different game entirely, Valhalla. Of course, this being a visual novel game, not only will you need to have a good story, you also going to need to have good characters as well. In episode 1, and honestly just all future releases of Coffee Talk, we dive into each of the character's story and see how they progress, whether that be for better or for worse. In episode 1, there are a total of 11 characters and 7 stories, each being the protagonist and supporting character to each other's lives. Freya is a writer and a regular at Coffee Talk, mainly using the place to write story while also learning some stories from the other customer, along with what I like to call her contact. She's usually listening in off screen, but sometimes would be sitting with the other customer, acting more of a supporting role, but she does have her own problems. She is also one of the short story writers of The Evening Whispers, usually writing a story inspired by the previous day's story. However, I usually don't read them, mainly because her inspiration and source of it is happening in my shop, and I'm too focused on that. Like, I know where your story is based off of, but I'm more focused in the real thing than your story writing. Her whole story, no pun intended, is about writing a novel, but she would need a publisher to do that. Luckily, she had a fateful encounter with one of the higher up in an elevator, so she shoot her shot and the higher up liked it, so much so that if she could get a draft ready within a month, the higher up may be able to sign her up for a publishing deal with the publishing division. So now she's working on both The Evening Whisper and her novel at the same time. What's funny about this is that her novel is based on the game itself. Freya is writing a novel based on the people who go to the player coffee shop. As he described it, it's a choose your own adventure but for adults. She's basically taking inspiration from the story of the customer and turning it into a book. Or in a more meta sense, she is writing the story for this game. However, instead of using fantasy creatures such as elves or werewolves, the world in her story will be more inhabited only by humans, which in their world is considered a controversial move. And I just want to ask this real quick, is this how the game was made? Like, I imagine the creator would just go into their local coffee shop, listening to all these people's life story, and just one day thought, I should make a game out of this. I swear, I feel like Freya is just a self-insert for the creator, and I'm all for it. Editor note, I'm kinda right. There's an article talking about the creator of Coffee Talk, Fummin, and how not only is he a coffee lover, but he would also write stories in those coffee shops. So it could be possible, but who knows. Going back to Freya, trying to balance these two tasks is taking a toll on her, mainly just losing sleep. Oh my gosh, relatable! But she is also having trouble keeping up with her current job since she is trying to focus more of her attention on the novel than her actual job. As the game progressed, we learned that her boss also had the same fateful encounter with a higher up in the elevator, and they learned about Freya's draft from them. Because of this, the boss was able to connect the dots on Freya's poor performance lately. And next thing you know, she got fired. So now Freya had to go all in on this novel. As the day progressed, we get to the final few days where you can determine how these characters' stories end. Freya arrived, sleep deprived, and demanding her usual order of espresso. However, if you were to give her the usual order, she'll end up getting the bad ending. What you need to do is give her the wrong drink. So, grab some milk, cinnamon, some honey to make bedchamber. Of course they'll get mad at this, but with you saying it's on the house and demanding her to drink it, she yield and drinks. The next day, she come back and is astounded by how much sleep she got. Thanks to you, Fanta, Freya was able to get some actual sleep, which in return helped her imagination and thoughts flow like a river instead of having to force it out like constipation. Now, as a quick side note, the game portrayed the ending as a slideshow of where the characters are now, similar to the Fallout endings. In a good ending, her novel would become a massive success, getting a movie adaptation and Freya getting to write a second novel. In the bad ending, her book didn't sell well and she became a freelance writer, still clinging on to her dreams and visiting the shop regularly. Now, while I was doing research on this game just to make sure that I can get other people's opinion on this game and whatnot, from what I found, you see that some of these stories aren't deep or relatable enough to some people. This does goes for some character that we'll describe about later in the video. But for Freya, I think she's 50-50. Freya's story may not resonate with some people. Not everyone is an inspired writer or have someone like Freya. However, I feel like Freya helped embody someone who is close to you. See, he's basically one of your regular who would come in almost every day during the first game, even before the events of the first game, thus already establishing a connection between you two. And during the events of the game, not only is he helping out the customers and basically eavesdropping on their stories, but you also sometimes chat one-on-one with her as if you were close friends. See, he's honestly a really good character that accompanies you throughout the entire game, like your first party member in an RPG, or even a close friend. Lastly, before we can go to the next character in this video, I have to mention the comics. In episode 1, the game provides some comics for almost all the characters in this game. Not only do they give us more insight on their characters, but some of them happen before or during the events of the game. So I'm planning on doing a part for almost each character where we can dive into the comics before, during, or after we meet them. In Freya's case, it would have been before, but I thought it would make sense to talk about her first and then jump into her comics. But without further ado, here we go. So for Freya, they have been stuck in the same apartment for 3 hours right now, just being stuck on the same page. This seemed to be like a common occurrence with her as of late. So she decided to go outside, buy some coffee, see the sunset. Just simply a way to get out of the room. Until she bumped into her friends. After done chatting with her friends, she came across the conclusion she needed to take a step outside. Because to her, she realized that this room is sucking her creativity away. So, she decided that in order to get creative, she will have to work outside. It never been confirmed, at least to my knowledge, but I'm assuming that this is how she came across Coffee Talk. Just something I thought to put there. Another supporting character who, compared to everyone else, he doesn't really have a story or problem to fix. Georgie is a human cop who I originally thought was a hybrid animal with horse legs, but no, he actually a human. He also one of the 3 regular who come to the cafe. He usually on night patrol, so he either patrolling the area or nearby, so it's a good place for him to re-energize and take a break. Going back to the comment I made earlier for character not being deep or relatable, I realized that Georgie doesn't really have much going for him in this game. Like, he does have a role. He is a father of 3 and a cop, so he'll act like a cop while giving parental advice and wisdom to those who need it, as well as cracking jokes here and there. But besides Freya asking him for story and Georgie giving advice to other characters, there's not much to him. Hell, he doesn't even get an ending slideshow for himself. He's literally the only one who get left out of a slideshow ending. So sadly, this is all I can really say about him in this first episode. I'll bring him up in the other character's story if necessary. Overall, both Georgie and Freya are simply good supporting characters, while one get more story than the other, sadly. We see an elf on a phone call with someone, most likely a client, asking for another revision. After coming to an agreement, which seemed one-sided, the elf agreed. As soon as he hung up the call, he got another one from a girl named Lua, most likely his partner. He answered. He explained that he can't make it tonight because he had to get to a client, most likely the one he was on the phone with. He reassured her, saying that he'll grab something to eat on the way. The next character we get introduced to is Lua, a succubus who is an office worker. She visited the cafe planning to meet her boyfriend there, aka Bailey's, who's a freelance designer and Lucian. They started chatting about each other's day until Lua got a text. It was her parents, talking about her relationship with Elf. Her parents are at a disagreement with her partner, as she quote, anyone but an elf. The same goes with basically parents. And this is the conflict between the 2 lovers. Racism. But in all seriousness, it's just their parents that want to stop them from dating each other due to their oh my god, just old people with old prejudice values. Because of this, Lua feel like their relationship is gonna come to an end soon because their parents will never agree to let them get married. Basically disagree and would gladly lose his immortality to be with her. But Lua doesn't want him to do that, despite basically insisting that he would do anything for her. Sadly, the conversation ended with her leaving, whether to think about it or to end the conversation. A tale of 2 lovers who in today's time can marry anyone who they want. But just because that is the new laws of the land doesn't mean that their family will agree. Like that one grandma who said the craziest line, "Back in my time, race mixing was illegal." So, your task is simple. Make drinks to help get these 2 lovers together. That as well as getting advice from the other customers. I'm planning on mentioning them later, but the 2 that helped the couple the most or at all are Gala the werewolf and Hyde the vampire. Lua meet Hai while Baisley meet Gala. Freya is there for both of them, and Sally is literally caught in the middle. We'll start with Lua first. For Lua, we learned that their relationship had been going the same for the past 10 years. But Hai made the point that they've been together for 10 years, and this is without their parents' permission. Not only that, but Lua wants a family and Baisley willing to marry her. But Lua doesn't want Baisley to abandon his family. Mainly because this damn microphone game. But Lua doesn't want Baisley to abandon his family, being afraid that one day he'll regret it and even blame Lua for it. Hai then told her that she's forcing her boyfriend to have the same life as her, stating that not every family is worth fighting for, and Baisley's family is one of them. They continue arguing until Hai ends the argument by saying this is reality. You can't have everything at once. Sacrifice and risk will have to be made for what's best for her as an individual. After taking this information, Lua just walk up and leave for the night. Freya proceeds to scold Hai after that. Fast forward a few days later, and now it's Gala giving advice to Baisley. The conversation revolves around the Baisley family. His family have similar value to Asian culture, have to be successful in life, and bring good reputation to him and his family. So when he decided to switch his major from business to art, his family not only got mad at him, but blamed Lua for it, saying how her kind is ruining this country, purchasing the dark lore and casting a spell on their son. God, no wonder why Baisley willing to give up his family. But what about Lua and her family? Gala replied. This is where Gala gives some insightful response. For Gala, he is a werewolf, and werewolves have a pack that work like family. There are obviously flaws and problems within the family, but their whole motto is that family come first. So, if Baisley is an elf and Gala is a werewolf, who else can say that Lua family doesn't have similar ideals as any other family-focused heritages similar to a werewolf? And if Baisley were to marry Lua and leave his family behind, then that will only support the elven idea on succubus. This works similar to the real world and how people develop racist viewpoint. I can't find it, but there is this one video where a teacher is doing an experiment with both elementary students and full-grown adults. And she did this racial experiment by using different colored eyes as a way to show how racism worked, making sure that both sides had a chance to feel better about themselves because of their eye colors, and also feel worse about themselves because of their eyes colors. Another comment Gala made is the future of their relationship. Once they get married, how will they keep the flame alive? Will he one day regret leaving his family for Lua? How will they financially recover from injuries if one of them need a $8 pill for $20,000? Mind you, they live in Seattle, this is the US of A. And if they have a kid, that kid gonna get bullied for being half-bred. So how will they take care and protect them? In short, Baisley should not see this as a lover, but as a partner. A partner that can support you through all hardship and understand each other's wants and needs while also respecting each other's boundaries. At least hopefully I said that right, because I've never been in a relationship before, man. But goddamn, I want one. This all come to its final act when they tell each other how they feel and what they learn. Indirectly. Like, when Basil say that there's this woman that she liked, and they got into an argument a week ago, and Lua played off asking him how he thinks she feels. It's clear that they're talking about each other, but let's be honest, if you were in a real life situation like this, it's incredibly hard to be forward with your feeling, and just honestly hard to be front and honest with people in general. So it makes sense why they would do something like this. As the conversation go on, Baisley asked Lua politely if she would allow him to leave his family, reassuring her that he won't blame her and he will try to get her family to accept him. Depending on your services, the two will embrace each other. After making up, Lua started making plans to get Baisley meet her parents soon. Baisley reluctant but agreed. In the good ending, we see the two together now, even living with each other. The last thing we hear about them is that they're making plans for venues and catering, which is explored more in episode 2. In the bad ending, Baisley leaves for Austin, never planning on returning to Seattle. While Lua does visit the cafe, She is drowning herself in books and the swipe right culture of this generation. Jesus Christ game. Honestly, a really good love story and incredibly relatable since I know that there are people out there who've been told that they can't marry someone because of their race or it's their background. The list goes on. Overall, pretty good. Gotta go find the comics through this thing. A dope. So many beings are obsessed with things that perish by time. Looks, wealth, relationship. After hundreds of years, what could still excite someone about life? Even separation doesn't taste as bitter as it should be. Gala asks if Hyde is doing okay. Hyde reassures him that these feelings don't bother him anymore. Of course it still does. You can never get used to heartbreak. To the usual bar, Gala? Roger. Yes, this is my attempt at Twilight's reference. I never saw the movie. As I mentioned before, Hyde is a vampire and Gala a wolf. Fun fact, Gala in Indonesia stands for wolf. The company who made this game is based in Indonesia. Is this important to the video? You decide. While these two characters can work on their own, they also have been seen together from time to time. These two go way back. We're talking about the 1960s. They met each other where they are right now, back when the coffee shop was a bar. Hyde was focused on getting shit-faced drunk, and Gala just so happened to be there. And not only that, Hyde owed a lot of money to the mafia, so a few droids were sent out to beat the shit out of him. Luckily though, Gala overheard this and decided to protect him. Once dealt with, Gala was stuck with babysitting him till morning, which led to him getting hired by Hyde the next day. Thus, the rest was history. And for those wondering why Gala decided to help or even accept the job, it was the 60s, and for Gala, people like him couldn't find a job or even put food on the table. And it wasn't because he was a werewolf, but a war veteran. For those who need a quick reminder, but with the help of Hyde being interested in him and worried about his general well-being, he was able to persuade Gala to go therapy. Fast forward to now, and Gala had been working at a hospital for 50 years in Seattle, while Hyde currently live in LA, working as a modeler for 20 years. However, there's still one problem with Gala, that being his werewolf theory. Got to find a comic somewhere, where is it? Here we go. We see Gala talking to himself, having an inner monologue. A few bystanders or people at the hospital notice him, mentioning how he is a werewolf. His co-worker offered to take him for drinks tonight, but Gala declined. Just simply not today. The co-worker explained that it's a time of the month, a day that isn't good for his kind. Earlier, Gala had reacted too strongly of seeing blood on the kid. The blood reminded him of the war, the worst version of himself. He thinks to himself that werewolves like him have no business working in the hospital. But then suddenly, a kid offered him a flower, telling him to cheer up. I guess it wasn't all that bad. You see, every full moon, the werewolves will turn into Jacob. Nah, I'm just kidding, they'll turn into werewolves obviously, but this doesn't mean that they have good control over themselves, so they will most likely cause a rampage. So for Gala's story, or rather Gala's goal, is for you to craft a remedy to help Gala calm down enough to control his fury, or at the very least enough to lock himself in time and not cause too much harm. Luckily, you can craft this drink quite early in the game, as soon as it becomes available to you. To make the remedy, all you need is tea, milk, and ginger, and yes, in that order, thus creating the Galahan. And even if you didn't make it in time, you still have one more shot when Gala turn into a werewolf. This will be your last chance to get the right drink for Gala, and if you were to check your notes, Gala will not allow it, slamming his fist into the table. This is where you have to create the drink from memory, which, not gonna lie, moments like these in video game give me PTSD. Like, if a video game gave me mechanics that work like notes or safety net, I'm going to try to play the game without it, because moments like these happen, and they hit hard when you're not prepared. Luckily, me being the epic gamer I was able to get this first try with memory. Once you finish, you'll either get a good or bad ending for the Twilight game, where if you get the good ending, Hai returned from Korea, by the way he went to Seoul, Korea, and returned with a special gift for everyone, especially for Gala. He even considering moving to Seattle if his agency allowed it. Just explore more in episode 2. But in the bad ending, Hyde is still living in LA. Truly hellish, I know. And Gala, it doesn't say. I mean, it makes sense that he had to deal with the aftermath of the fury with himself and the other at the hospital, but they don't say what happened to him in the ending sequence. But yeah, it seemed like out of these two, Gala got the most character interaction and story compared to Hyde. Honestly, I didn't find it a problem. I felt like Hyde character was pretty good, all things considered. He looked like someone who's a quiet jerk, but their thoughts and wisdom behind their words. The reason why I say this for Hyde is because we get more of a focus on his character in the next game compared to this, and Gala is the one supporting him instead the other way around. But overall, I'm glad we got to see these two characters. They're such a delight. I'll be your BB bunny baby. I'm your fruit and all your whips and again until the end. Oh, we see what seemed to be an argument between a father and a daughter. The father being worried that her high school girl is home late. The daughter told the father that she was late because he had to do a lot of night training for her upcoming debut, which the father explained that those kind of jobs, especially for being an idol, are not really good. Obviously, this triggered her, and the daughter started breaking into tears while yelling at her father, telling her how she take this job seriously, but he'll never get it, never ever. The next day, she went to high school and explained to her friend how they're still fighting with each other. As the daughter opened her lunch, well, we at least know who made the lunch. Stupid father. To easily sum this up, you're trying to reunite a daughter and father after Rachel, the daughter, turned 18 and acting like she knows the world better than her father. Along with the, passing of their mother causing a drift between the two, but that's not the thing we gotta worry about, nah. Okay, but in all seriousness, to go into more detail, Rachel is an idol girl who has been in the industry since she was 13. And a real quick side note to make, when she told Freya to guess who she is, Freya thought she was in illegal activity against her will, to the point where she asked her to blink twice if she was in danger. Her idol animation can make her blink twice. Not only that, but she also called Freya a broke and woke person. Like, Rachel, chill out. You just met the person and you're already insulting her. Jesus Christ. So you also have a funny achievement on the first day you meet her. The barista pointed out that this is the first time a celebrity comes to their shop, to which Rachel will reply, "Yay! Achievement unlocked." This does unlock an achievement. I played this originally on PC and Switch, so when I was playing this on PlayStation and the notification popped up, it caught me off guard. But going back to the story, Rachel is here because she got into another fight with her father about her profession. Is it because her dad doesn't see it as a real job or something that is profitable? No, actually. The dad used to work in the showbiz decades ago. What he really worried about is the people who she work with. And you don't need experience in the showbiz nowadays, or at all, to realize that people are crazy. Luckily though, Georgie is here to become the voice of logic and second father / uncle to Rachel. The game figured out that there seemed to be some unresolved issue between Rachel and her dad, which Georgie advised to get the issue resolved and for Rachel to understand her dad's perspective. Speaking of her dad's perspective, we skip a few days and we meet Rachel's father, Henry.
So, I saw that you mentioned Henry a bunch of times, and it's Henry, not Henry. You can check the document.
Okay, so in my personal opinion, I'm just bad with names.
And I would argue that that's such a unique name that you can't even mess it up.
And I would argue, you see, Georgie called him to come over to the coffee shop to talk about Rachel. We see how stressed and worried Henry is for her daughter, since the two usually get into fights all the time. Georgie worked his magic and give him some parental advice, and we learn what the real issue is at hand. You see, Rachel got a new manager named Morris Lesser, And Henry, with his knowledge and experience of the industry, doesn't trust him. Hell, Georgie went as far as doing a background check on Lester to help Henry feel better, no matter the outcome. Even Freya stepped in and give Henry some advice about rebellious daughter and parenting in general, understanding that Henry only wants what is best for her, but if he keeps acting like this, he'll only drive her away from him. However, that doesn't stop him from making rash decisions. The next time we see them is when they're together, bursting into the cafe in a full-blown argument, talking about Henry entering the studio to stop Morris from interacting with Rachel. But Rachel still wants him as her manager because Lester is one of the best and at the height of his career right now. After the two argue, Rachel just up and left Henry in the cafe, which then Henry pursued her. Henry would later come back to the cafe, defeated after he couldn't catch up to Rachel. This is where we start to learn more about Henry, how he met his wife in the industry, how he's still in contact with some of his friend, or informant as he called it, in the industry, which is how he know more about Morris being a so-called pervert, and that he had people on the inside. And we learned that he left the industry after he married his wife and the toxic fans to the girl band he used to manage. Which, yes, he used to be a manager as well. These two combinations made him want to settle down. We then fast forward after the gala incident where, depending on your choice on the previous day, Gala will be there or not. For the sake of this video, let's say he's there. Gala entered the store, apologizing and being thankful to us for crafting a drink to calm down his fury, which both Gala and Freya agreed to put the drink into a vacuum flask. Then, suddenly, Rachel stormed in upset. You see, this is something I forgot to mention, even recording the voice line right now, that Rachel is going to Coachella, which is basically Coachella, which is kind of weird because Coachella is usually held in California near LA and not anywhere near Seattle. But for the sake of this story, it's somewhere near Seattle. You see, Rachel learned that her father went backstage to see her and wish her daughter good luck. Of course, Rachel let him in because it's her father. Everything was fine till her manager came by, which at that point, it was on site. Beside that, all was great till Lester invited her to the party. You see, Lester invited Rachel to a party at a club, exclusive to VIP and artists. However, Rachel decided not to go because he wanted to settle things with her dad first. And since the only time they can do that is at the same time the party starts, Rachel decided to choose her father over the party, which is why I see here. For Rachel, we learned that a club that only allowed 21-year-old Rachel was able to get in without a guardian because of Lester. Rachel is 18 and is still in high school, and from the sound of it through dialogue, it seemed pretty recent that she turned 18. You can see where this is going. Yeah, so Freya just set her up straight and just say, this motherfucker plotting something and it ain't family friendly. All of a sudden, Henry in cat form walk in and oh fuck, he got into an actual fight. Depending on whether or not Gala arrived will help determine the ending for these two. If Gala ain't here, then someone else will call an ambulance and her dad will sadly remain injured for a long while, and Rachel will be working under a new manager in the bad ending. If Gala is here, he'll already call an ambulance and contact a Nekomimi expert. Wait, Nekomimi, wait, was it Nekomimi or Nekomata? Wait, did I got Zenless Zone Zero mixed up? Which will help Henry get back on his feet all healthy and full force real soon. Which then, Rachel will get a new manager being her father in the good ending. After this, Rachel will come back the next day, telling us everything that happened. You see, Henry got into a brawl with some thugs. These thugs turned out to be Lester's bodyguard, who were going to do some stuff that would be out of YouTube guidelines to his daughter. We later learned from the newspaper that Lester's party was raided, making it the biggest drug and sex-related bust of the year. But the game reassured her that if she needed a place of comfort or relaxation, she is always welcome at this cafe. It's nice to see how they did the father and daughter dynamic with the combination of the celebrity and entertainment aspect put into it. Especially with what has been happening this year with so many celebrities doing awful crime as if it was like a normal activity for them. It's honestly insane. Another thing I want to point out is their design here. I don't plan on talking about any other character design, but I thought this was worth mentioning. For Rachel's design, it seemed more fitted like an idol girl from Asian pop culture, making her look innocent and young, just like how she acted in the game, while her father looked clean and formal. Or as my professor called himself, seasoned. I don't plan on talking about the other character design as I feel that it would bloat the video a bit, but I thought it was worth pointing out here. While the celebrity aspect won't resonate with too many people, who the fuck am I thinking watching this video? The whole family infighting and trying to understand one another is something that everyone had gone through before. Luckily with this one, it ended on a positive note. We see what seemed to be a aquatic creature. God damn, that sounds harsh. Look at you, Mr. Racist. Does aquatic female sound worse? Okay, we see. No, that sounds bad. I don't know. Everything I feel like I'm trying to introduce her sound bad. We see someone better. We see someone standing outside a Coffee Talk, trying to bring herself to go in. Tomorrow for sure, though. The next day, we see her getting ready, pumped up to go inside, but then someone appeared right by her. Excuse me. Tomorrow for sure though. And then, the day had came. As he walked back and forth in front of the cafe, Georgie appeared behind her, asking if she a regular. Which, because Georgie started asking questions, she got nervous and walked away. But the next day, she actually stopped overthinking about it and actually walked in. We first get introduced to Myrtle, who doesn't talk at all. She only orders her drinks, go on her phone, and leaves. Till one day she overheard a conversation and decides to pitch in, explaining how their date is bailing on him. But later, we get introduced to someone. Aqua is a shy, introverted person who, I kid you not, took several days to enter the coffee shop. She is a university researcher who studied computer graphics, which caught Myrtle's attention because it turned out she read one of Aqua's published research paper. And turned out, Myrtle worked on the hit video game series Full Metal Conflict, which Aqua is a huge fan of. This allowed the two to bond and get to know each other more, while the player learned about the video game industry and the making of it, such as the risks that are involved when it comes to adapting a video game into a movie. While this introduction into the two is short, it cements the idea immediately for the two. When we get to talk to the two separately, starting with Aqua, we learn that she's not a US citizen. Born and raised in the sea, her parents convinced her to move to America to get better opportunity. She had been living here in the US for 2 years now and voice called her parents at least once a week. And as the time goes on, she starts to open herself more to others, such as Freya and Myrtle, which usually when the two get together, they talk about the video game industry and how it is. They usually talk about topics that have been brought up before in many YouTube videos, such as unrealistic deadlines and the passive-aggressive overtime. But the two generally help each other out, such as Aqua research helping Myrtle and her dev team making the development process much faster, or when Myrtle is giving her advice and help on Aqua indie game to be shown at their universe version of PAX West, being called Max. Fast forward to later, this friendship is still striving as we see Myrtle help out Aqua with the whole progress of making the video game from scratch. Before we conclude these two characters, we have to touch upon one more thing that Myrtle mentioned: burnouts. Again, something that has been discussed a ton outside of this game, whether that be through the video game industry or something else. But to dive deep into the sea of text, we learned that she'd been working on the game for 2 years straight, a game that haven't been announced to the public, which got to suck balls, man. Like, imagine you've been working on this project or got to take part in a project and you can't say or mention anything about it, not to anyone, even to people who have worked on this before or have played it before. This project could take years to even get announced, let alone get canned and be brought into the public eye. Therefore, all that work and your accomplishment will never get acknowledged or get sent out for people to enjoy. It sucked. This leads to us learning about Myrtle's position in the company, being part of a team of developers called the Seven Samurai. They're the guy you call when support is needed to beat the impossible. Think of it like the Avenger or every show in the elite task force there are. Even the comics talk about this. In it, we see Myrtle getting ready to go leave, until one of her co-workers got a bug report, seemed to be late. The guy had to fix it right now, because the deadline for whatever they're working on is too close. After Myrtle just basically hearing this guy struggling why it's not working, she decided to help him out. As Myrtle helped him out, the guy asked if he wanted to try a new restaurant around here. Myrtle declined, but she does ask if the guy knows where she can get a good cup of coffee instead. I think this is how she found Coffee Talk. Obviously, they don't say it outright, but with everything that happened in these comics and it's clear where they'll eventually lead to, I'm assuming this is how she found the place. But wait, you, just like Aqua, may be wondering, when did Merle go on vacation? Take a guess. I'll wait. If your guess was before she joined the company, that was 4 years, then you're correct. Immediately after Aqua heard it, she did not insist, but forced Myrtle to go on vacation with her during the weekend. Funnily enough, they went to Coachella during their vacation. This would lead to an ending sequence where, depending on what you get, Aqua is showing off her indie game at max. The only difference it shows is that in the good ending, she has some help, while in the bad ending, she worked alone on it, but at least bringing her joy. While there isn't much for me to say on what hasn't been said about the video game industry, I do love that a video game from a video game company is talking about the stresses and difficulty of an industry inside the video game. I wrote this at 1:15 a.m. But despite that, I would have loved to see the potential story about immigration on Aqua's side of thing. It would have been nice to know how hard or tough the immigration process could be for some individual from a different country, whether they're coming from the sea or from other places that usually don't have good relation with the country they're going to. That is something I gotta address eventually. As you may have known or can obviously tell at some point, this game does talk about politics. Now, I'm not going to put in my whole political belief or say you should believe in this or whatnot. You do you, and I want to try to keep politics out of things because just simply talking about it even for a little bit is like walking on a minefield. And not to mention, but politics are annoying. Luckily though, the first game only touched upon this or just barely brush on the idea of politics. But in the second game, there is a certain character that deals with both immigration and LGBT topics, and that is a whole can of worm that I will address when I make that video. I just simply want to make sure we all chill and that there's no political view or political crap being discussed. That shit is just a headache, and I'd rather keep things neutral and chill for everyone. Sorry about that. Going back to Merle and Aqua, it's just a simple and nice story. Since we follow Aqua from being this shy individual to making connections with friends and work partner, I would have seen Merle becoming more active in the cafe, to the point where she actually befriended Aqua. We see from an astronaut perspective, trying to ask a woman to meet with him. Alright, it seems this astronaut is trying to learn how to communicate. After surveilling the area, he noticed a common trend with each of these humans. The astronaut asks, wondering if what they're holding is crucial to their communication between the two. They're confused obviously, but they mentioned that this is coffee, and they met through an online dating app called Kinder. Kinder? Is that how you pronounce it? Either way, the astronaut decides this must be the way how we can communicate. So, he set up a dating app. I think it's simply safe to say with this alien is that they got no clue what on earth they're doing. If you can't tell, I clearly got no clue how to narrate this without a script. Generally speaking, this one is just, I don't know how. Our final character that we meet, Neil. Neil is an alien. Simple as that. He comes from outer space trying to understand humanity and human nature as a whole. How does he do this? By mating with them. But in order to do that, he'll need a partner. So he took a reference from an album cover, copied it, and used it to blend in with the people of Seattle. By the way, that universal look in their helmet is the combination of their hives from their home, or mother hive as I call it. In shorter terms, despite being separated, they are able to communicate with each other despite being God know how far they are. Think of it like a simple phone call or text message. You're able to stay in contact with each other through technology. This is their main goal in the game. Neil is simply learning how the world works, which is why we see Neil work behind a counter one day to gain experience, which lead to a funny interaction where Merle asks who handling the drink, reassuring her that we're still making them. Or when Neil is talking about finding a lover while Freya and Hai are there, Hai made a remark about Freya getting laid just to get a story out of it, which Freya denied. Take that, Grandpa! The next time we see Neil, we learn why they come to Earth. You see, they are planning to breed with someone on Earth to provide an offspring to become the future protector of this planet. If you made it this far in the video, don't worry, you're near the end. However, this surprisingly goes deep into the topic of having kids, stating that this creation of their protector have to be made with love so they don't give birth to a super evil person like the Antichrist or Jackal who owe me a $25 gift card. But this is how we see Neil throughout the game, learning human nature and society, as well as the process behind getting laid. There is, however, one character that is tied to Neil's story that I didn't mention before, a government agent. This agent is from the Federal Immigration Regulation and Enforcement Division, or FIRE for short. Can you see the connection? This is the only time something political is talked about in the game, and it was through this interaction. The agent make the argument that since Neil kinds are a superior creature, they need to find them as soon as possible. From what we can gather from both the agent interaction and Neil, there seemed to be a reason on why the division was made, to stop and secure these superior creatures so they don't threaten the world. However, there are people like Neil who just want to live and learn how humans work, along with learning how to live among them. So while the agent have his reason and is literally just doing his job, Neil is on constant run or hiding from them, while learning to live here. In the game, this interaction only happened once, so there's not much for discussion except the political implication, but in the second game, oh, they go deep with this. As we visit the final day, chat with other customers and Freya one last time, we see all their endings. As for Neil, we learn that he's traveling the country, starting at Coachella to New York in just 2 weeks. No matter what, Neil's ending will stay the same in both good and bad. But before the game truly ends, we get one last customer. A customer entered the store. It seemed to be a guy wearing a doctor outfit, the same one as Gala, and the first thing they do is greet us by name. Fenta is confused by this at first, but the guy then states that he had been here before, even worked behind the counter. Neil, is that you? So, 2 plot twists. 1, Neil is hot. He had evolved, being able to blend in with human by actually looking like a human, and also invading the agent like it's Vector. Does anyone remember that game? And second, we're him, or more accurately, we're descended from Neil kind, but we have the ability time travel. All those times where you can reset the day because we mess up a drink and thus we got a bad ending for one character, so you have to go back in time to make sure you make the right drink for the right character. Yeah, so we can time travel. From what I know, we can go through multiple timelines, just simply fixing our mistake or causing them. After we learned about this, Neil wanted to see what the final draft Freya wrote for her story. We can do this by going back in time to see the mistake Fenta made while chatting with some of the customer. The first day was when Freya told us about her meeting in the elevator. In it, we say how she met a higher up before she even brought it up. She chalked it up to us knowing someone on the inside and we just move on. The second day, however, when Rachel was visiting the place for the first time, during the conversation about her father, Fenta accidentally name-dropped Henry's name, which, if you forgot, I don't blame you. We haven't learned it at this point. Rachel assumed that we know this information because she thinks Henry visited the shop before, but Freya, who witnessed this mistake for a second time, is now on to us. And the last one was when Neil arrived for the second time, where we referred to him by his first name and Neil mentioned that he didn't tell us his name yet. And this is where Freya started seeing through our bullshit. At the end, when we were alone with Freya, we asked for her draft, which she handed it to us. And you know how she write her story based off the coffee shop and their customer? Well, for us, she decided to make us a time traveler in her story. While it isn't confirmed in the first game, and I still need to beat the second game, we are not sure whether Freya know about our power or not, but honestly, it could go either way. We were also asked by Neil one last time on why we did all this. Why did we open the cafe, connect all these people together? Why do we do all this? Fenta gave 2 answers: to make sure everything is right with each of his customers, and to prove that he exists on this earth. Me and my friend come to the conclusion that this could be interpreted in multiple ways. I told him that this is the creative way of showing that he existed in this world, as in leaving a lasting mark on this earth. That's how I saw it, as a more meta sense or real world way. While my friend saw it more in the video game logic or in the sense of time travel, where he said that the barista is making sure that he stay alive in all or multiple of these timelines, making sure that these things go correctly in current plan. So I guess this is where I turn to you, the people behind this screen, and ask, what do you think? Do you agree with one of us, or it could be something else entirely? There probably is an answer out there if I research it. If not, then what do you guys think? Because honestly, this seemed to be up to interpretation. Despite the end now coming to an end, there are a few things you can do. You can do the mention before free mode where you can grab as many drinks as you want, and potentially give Freya several health related problems. Or the endless mode where you're on a time limit and have to keep making drinks over and over till the timer runs out. The achievements are very simple and easy to do. The hardest one to get in my opinion are the latte art for 1 hour and 50 correct drinks in a row in endless mode. Last but not least, there are some artwork you unlock throughout the game. These show some nice design of the characters, their beta and concept art, and a bit more. And this is it, the end. By now, I feel like you guys can obviously understand why I love this game. Not only the relatability of the character, but how, I guess in the sense of realistic and human they are. Despite almost all of them being fantasy creature, the problem are real and are experiences that either you, I, or anyone else have gone through. And whether that be a random stranger, a loved one, or just simply a friend, we want to try to help them the best we can. And sometimes we can only do what we can do. Sorry if it sounds like trying to get philosophical there. I'm guessing if I have to sum it down to 2 things, I just love hearing other people's stories, and I love tea. Thank you guys for watching. Alright, if you have seen my other videos, you know I usually use the last bit of the video to say thank you to the people who helped me on this. So, first thing first, I gotta say thank you to Columbi for making the artwork for the background pixel art. I did not notice that this game never have any background art for what behind the counter, and there have been 2 games and a 3rd going to be coming soon. So I'm glad that Columbi could help me with this. Another thank you I want to give out to is also another friend of mine, A64, who helped with the script editing. He had appeared before in the Perfect Blue video and I gave thanks to him there, but with this one he became real big help. But yeah, thank you to all of my friends who helped support me with this stuff. Honestly, thank you to all of you and my subscribers who stick with me to the end here. Whether you guys are new or old subscribers, thank you for sticking out here till the end with me. But anyway, again, thanks everyone for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.